Reports of a possible truce between the Nigerian government and the Niger Delta Avengers, it's a militant group operating in the Niger Delta, the heartland really of Nigeria's oil industry, have been thrown into confusion after the group denied having sent any representatives to meet the petroleum minister, Ibe Kachikwu. Now, the group has previously attacked pipelines and facilities operated by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, as well as local subsidiaries of Shell, Chevron and Eni. A spate of attacks since February has in fact been so effective it's cut oil production in Nigeria to some 1.6 million barrels of crude a day. That's well down from the budgeted 2.2 million barrels of crude of output every day. That in turn has worsened the country's economic turmoil, and that is particularly nasty for Nigeria, whose government relies on oil sales for the bulk of its revenue. Let's find out exactly where the country goes from here. Sophia Dango is live tonight in Abuja with more data on the story. Sophia, given the latest attack on an NNPC pipeline, this is about 24 hours ago, is the government still willing to talk with the Niger Delta Avengers, or are they increasingly leaning towards perhaps using the police and the army to deal with the group?
Well, of course, the Nigerian government has prioritized security in the country as a whole and not necessarily the talks with the Niger Delta Avengers. But what makes the Niger Delta Avengers so, such a threat here is really their target towards what they call an economic war. In what we have seen are repeated attacks on oil installations around the country. And that has brought a lot of attention, not only from the Petroleum Corporation here, the National Petroleum Corporation, but also the Nigerian government itself in really taking a closer look at one of these many groups in the Niger Delta area and really trying to figure out what it is that they're agitating for. At the end of the day, the NDA is really saying that they would require some independent mediation from a separate entity to speak to the government about, their concerns. And top on their agenda really is more stake in the oil revenue that is received from this specific geographical area. But towards the end of the discussions that we have heard so far, the Nigerian government is really prioritizing security and saying that the public comes first, and they're going to pay attention to making sure that any public unrest will definitely be contained. But in terms of forwarding talks with the NDA, a government amnesty program is in place and has seen the disarmament happen in this particular part of the country, and will follow through on that government program. Outside of that, speculation on talks is still very scanty. Rama.
Local community groups in the Delta, and this is a story you keep hearing over and over again, they consistently express very deep-seated mistrust in the federal government. And given the fact that most of these problems have really existed for a very long time, what can the government do realistically with its limited resources to rebuild trust with the residents of the Delta?
Well, Rama, you're really touching on the bedrock of the relationship between the Nigerian government and, the Niger Delta residents. And there seems to be a romantic notion that perhaps many residents of this area have not been attended to or are victims of what the government has been able to do in that area. And that certainly is not true. The government has embarked on various programs, especially in the area of rehabilitation and bringing some sense of normalcy in the area, providing programs. And those development programs are really dependent on this disarmament effort in making sure that there aren't any arms in this particular area, and that business does continue as normal, and limiting, these small, units of oil extraction that have come to be known here in Nigeria as illegal, crude oil manufacturers who are selling a lot of Nigeria's oil on the black market. So it's a two-way street in many respects, according to analysts. On one hand, the responsibility of the people living in the Niger Delta area to respect the oil extraction process and, of course, have that trickle-down effect of development. But also, on the other hand, having the Nigerian government pay close attention to perhaps some of the areas that are vulnerable in terms of poverty and environment concerns. Rama.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you for the update. That's Sophia Dango live in Abuja.